1. This happened years ago, and if this same scenario ever happened again, I would never have allowed it to continue the way it did. I was frustrated and upset, and at the time, felt like his own actions caused this. So, my husband can be, and often is, a dick. He often makes assumptions about my actions, usually negative assumptions. So the bathroom was pretty gross, and I decided I was going to spring clean the bathroom. And I'm meaning toothbrush cleaning cracks and crevices. Usually I have a few old cleaning toothbrushes, but they were missing. No biggie, I thought. I'll just use my husband's old flat and gross-looking toothbrush. I had already bought him a brand new one a few days prior, so I thought it was time to downgrade his old one. So that's what I did. I used that toothbrush in all sorts of gross places. I just happened to be rinsing it out after having cleaned the toilet when he came into the room. He got really angry and asked me why I had his toothbrush in my hand. I was like, well, I bought you a new, and he interrupted, put it back. I tried to persist in explaining and said, that's my toothbrush. Well, yes, I know, but put it back. I mean, I would put it back, but that's my toothbrush, don't touch my toothbrush. Well, yeah, I mean, but put it back. By this point, I was flustered, upset, and angry. Like, why can't he just let me explain I already bought him a new brush? I already used this one on the floor, bathtub, sink, and toilet. But every time I tried to tell him this, he would interrupt. Frankly, I had already told him on multiple occasions to please let me at least tell him what I was doing, and to please stop interrupting me, but never letting me get a word in. I could have yelled and interrupted him like he kept doing to me, but instead I gave him what he wanted, and I was like, okay, fine. I put his toothbrush back and walked out. Screw him, he got what he asked for, plus I don't understand why he acted that way. If the roles were reversed and I walked in with him rinsing my toothbrush, I would have asked, what are you doing with my toothbrush? And then I would have listened to his answer. And when he said, oh, I got you a new toothbrush, I used this old one to clean, I then would have said, oh, okay, thanks for getting me a new toothbrush. And that would have been the end of it, but no. He can't just seem to treat me kindly. So yeah, I could have persisted and told him, but his seemingly irrational anger made me feel some sort of way, and I was just like, F you, enjoy your toilet toothbrush. While just walking away might seem unfair, I felt that he never came to me with just a calm manner. There was never just asking me. It always had to be, you did this, so you were terrible. Everything just always seems to be so aggressive. I've always struggled with trying to get him to just pause for a moment and just let me speak. For context, things I didn't really say in the original post, I work full-time, he doesn't work at all. I spend my entire weekend cleaning, doing all the cleaning that I can get to during the week. So, usually I'm always behind in cleaning. I don't know. I just feel that when I'm doing everything all the time for everyone in our house, should I not be given at least a little benefit of the doubt? I've never done anything for him to assume I'm bad all the time. If anything, I've always gone out of my way to do as much as possible. We have had years of him doing this type of stuff, and I feel so down. And yes, I will even say offended, because why act like this? Why act like I'm a terrible person? Why'd you marry me? And why am I still with you? 2. Like 6 years ago, I was working at DPD as a delivery driver. The program was ruthless, like 12 hours a day. But I enjoyed the job and making sure everyone got their package in time, and bringing close to no packages back to the depot felt good. One time, it was like 10 a.m. when an older guy with a nice car parks near me, comes at me angry, and says he needs his packages ASAP, and that he spoke with my boss that his package needs to be delivered early in the morning. My boss said nothing to me, and he usually didn't care, as long as I did my job properly. I start my shift at 5 a.m., taking the packages, scanning them, sorting them by area, loading them, and by 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., I start delivering them, so the car was full of packages, and had a long-ass Mercedes Sprinter. His packages were like in the middle of the car, so I needed to start unpacking the car to find them. After I've worked for like 15 to 20 minutes to please this guy, by unloading half the car in the street, putting his 4 heavy packages in his car, he just closed his car and drives off. I was not looking for any tipping because it's not a thing in this country. He just ghosted me. As we say in my country, not a thank you, not a fuck you, no nothing. After I better learned the route that I was driving, I started leaving that area where the old guy was living as my last to be delivered. It was just an area with houses. I had other areas with a lot of business buildings that maybe closed earlier, or having a break, or many packages, so I emptied my car faster. The area where that guy was living was on my way when I started delivering, and also on my way when I'm heading back to depot. So I can choose with no problem to deliver their packages early in the morning or later in the evening. Normally I chose that area as my last one, and like a few weeks after the incident I was doing my job early in the morning when the old guy finds me again and demands his packages. I say that I will not give them to him because I need to empty the whole car for the packages, and he needs to wait until I come to his house and give them to him. When he saw that I wouldn't let him have them, he just drove off and waited for my arrival. Fast forward to 6 p.m. I was delivering packages in the area, but not his as it was the last one, just because of his house placement. Like 10 clients before him, he finds me and says that he is working with music instruments, and he had a client waiting with him by his house for hours, watching me in the app, just passing by his house, but never coming to give him the packages. His client left before I was there, and he didn't need the packages anymore, and he lost about 1,500 euros because of me. I don't need a tip. A smile and a thank you will make me deliver your packages as my first stop in the morning. 3. This was back in 2019. I had worked at a call center for 2 years. I took phone calls, trained people, worked overtime. Sometimes they'd even just have me walk around and answer any of my coworkers' questions. They scored our calls, and I never received below a 90. Now for Amy had only been working for about a year. She instantly disliked me because I dressed a bit more alternative, professional, but alternative. I was in some new medication for my funky little brain, and it didn't react well. It made me more blunt. A customer was arguing with me, saying I was stupid for not giving them a promotion item that was not going on. So I told them flat out that I was right. She started screaming, so I said I'm not taking the abuse and hung up. Seemed reasonable at the time, right? If I was right, there wouldn't be a story. I got called in the day after next. They fired me for hanging up without a warning. My manager was included in all the meetings, and they talked to me before HR the day before. Also, a hang-up without 3 warnings was an automatic fire. I told them I'm on new meds because I'm bipolar, so they couldn't fire me for that, but they needed paperwork proving I'm bipolar. Fair enough. Then comes 3 months of calling numbers, getting things sent out, only to have Amy tell me they didn't receive anything. When we had meetings, she would talk down to me, tell me being good at my job didn't matter because I was only still there because of my excuse with your meds. She even ignored 2 of my managers saying I deserved to stay because I was great at working. She kept on saying my paperwork was lost. Later, we were all work from home, so I decided to move, and she found out, telling me she had to approve it before I did so, and that she would approve it. I moved, and about 2 weeks later she broke me. She had scheduled me for 3 12-hour days in a row, which I had said I could not work in a row. She didn't schedule me directly, she went through some managers who didn't like me. I was told by one of my managers who did like me. Amy told me I needed to show up or there would be actions taken against me. I got online and started working. At lunch, I logged off and sent an email to everyone, saying that I had great managers and coworkers and that it was a great job, and sadly I just couldn't stay because Amy was making my job rough. I named her in that email, then I logged off and went to sleep. I got a call the next day from the head of HR begging me to come back, saying that Amy decided to leave for a different opportunity, and said we could discuss a raise. I said thanks, but no, and never looked back. 4. So back when I was in high school, I was dating a guy who I thought was the love of my life. Looking back now, he was actually one walking red flag, and our relationship was pretty damn toxic. But you live and you learn. I was between 15 and 16 at the time. While he manipulated me into breaking up with him. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth. I'd have to give background on many fights to truly explain how, but that'd make this way too long. He even admitted after that he was done with the relationship, but he didn't want to be the one to end things. I also found out after the relationship ended that he cheated on me a few times. A weekish after we broke up, I saw a freestyle, I think, from Nicki Minaj, where she essentially said, if a man breaks your heart, get with his best friend. Well, it just so happened that my ex would always complain to me about how he felt like his best friend was into me. While it wasn't entirely true, it also wasn't entirely false, I've since learned. So I started texting the best friend. We were friends during mine and my ex's relationship, and had connections outside of the relationship. We got really close, and I don't even have the words to describe it. I just knew he was going to be so important in my life. We didn't end up dating back then, but we flirted on and off for a few years. When I went to college, I told everyone about the boy back home that I knew I was going to marry one day. At the time, he was my best friend. We both talked to other people, but nothing ever lasted. Well, fast forward to today. We live together and have been dating for a few years. There's a ring in the closet. We've both decided we're not at a point in our lives where we want to get engaged or married quite yet, but will one day. The story of when he bought the ring is quite romantic in my opinion. We just recently went on our first international trip together, and I saw a ring in one of the local shops that I absolutely fell in love with. He snuck down and bought it while I was asleep. It still bothers my ex. They still have some mutual friends, and they all wanted to hang out recently. My now boyfriend apologized to my ex and basically said, I messed up back then and went behind your back and that wasn't okay, and they're in a happy relationship. My ex told him to stick it where the sun don't shine. This isn't my proudest story. I don't generally enjoy hurting people, but he truly was a shitty-ass boyfriend. 5. Here you go. It's another Metheny story, guys. Background. I own my home. Metheny and friends, trademark, rent a very large piece of land with a single-family home. Metheny, a 50-year-old woman, has told me, a 40-year-old woman, that she's a felon. Never told me what she did to catch a felony. Metheny is very thirsty for my husband, Hubs 2.0 the upgrade, 37 years old, and told him that she and her crack-addled have a timeshare with a single brain cell entourage. We're building a gun range on the property. We live in suburbia, Palm Beach County. Kinda illegal. Here's my other crap story about her written crappily, as this one will be too. Hubs 2.0 learns what the new building we've been watching go up in Metheny's yard is meant for. Hey hon, Metheny just told me what the building is back there. What is it? I assumed it was a storage shed or something for their camper. Hubs 2.0 is grinning because he knows how I am. It's a gun range. I pause as I process the multiple legal issues, then realize the way the building is situated. If there's a failure, it'll go into another neighbor's kid's bedroom. My family has lived in my house for 3 generations. I know the floor plans of most of the older buildings on the block. I'm visibly getting worked up. Hubs is still grinning, wondering what I'll do. Like hell they're going to have a gun range behind our house! I begin planning, thinking, how the fuck am I going to get that building taken down? I call permitting. BC code enforcement is shit unless there's other departments involved. Me, in my most innocent Karen voice, says, "Hi, my name is Weary Direction, and I see that my neighbors are building a barn behind my house on their property, and it has power. If you ever want to perk up the ears of anyone in permitting or code enforcement, mention the fact that it appears this structure has power. BC will get the fire marshal involved. I was wondering, could I build something similar on my property, I ask.
You'll have to go through the website, blah blah blah, but let's check, what's the address?
Followed by a bureaucratic BS, he's pulling the recent permits for my neighbor's property, just like I want him to.
So, yeah, can you see the building from the road?
This took place before my spite fence from a previous story. And I had started the process, so once the fence went up, you can't see behind the property anymore. They haven't been stupid enough to pull this again, though. Oh, yes, it's very nice, too. It has floodlights, and they just painted it. I really like it and want the same thing for me.
Well, you'll have to pull permits to build on your property, ma'am. I'm going to have code enforcement check this out.
Oh, okay. I didn't want them to be in any trouble.
Yeah, my horns grew a few inches that day.
The aftermath. I didn't see code come. I didn't hear the ruckus. Hubs 2.0 said he heard some yelling that week when he was home on his days off, but Methany didn't seem too keen on talking to him for a while after that. I wonder why. The building came down, and the gunshot noises we were hearing and thought was from another neighborhood down the way mysteriously stopped. I never found out how much money that building cost. But it was only 5 years ago, so it was more than likely very expensive. I have no idea where their income comes from either, so don't ask. Moral of the story: don't play one spouse against the other, then build a goddamned illegal shooting range in a single family home neighborhood, even if it is in the ghetto. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 314. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do poke the like button. And if you'd like to get the videos a little bit early access I think they call it, then you can support me on my Patreon for as little as $1 or more if you'd like a month. You can also buy yourself some Hellfreezer merchandise, and the other way to support the channel is to make donations during streams or videos like this one as you're watching by hitting that little heart sign with the $1. And while you don't have to do this, I greatly appreciate it, and it's been helping me out a lot. Okie dokie, let's see. I don't think there's any other business today. I think I've done all my shoutouts, have I? Yes, I have. So let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... And this one comes thanks to Nukem and the question of the day suggestion room on my Discord. And that is, should cars still come with ashtrays? They were watching a video about car features, and it suggested that if cars still had ashtrays, would it help prevent forest fires from people flicking still-lit cigarettes out the window? Well, my opinion is, yes, they should have ashtrays. I think maybe it should be an optional thing, where you can either have an ashtray, or you can have, I don't know, like a phone stand or a place to keep marshmallows and chocolate and things. Maybe a hot cocoa dispenser in the car would be better. Actually, yes, that'd be nice. I now want some hot cocoa. Okay, it is after midnight, and these idiots are still letting off fireworks. I grumble about this every year, and I'm afraid, folks, I'll probably keep grumbling about it every year, but it's so frustrating. It's the kind of thing that, the dogs barking don't annoy me. You've heard me grumble about dogs. That doesn't annoy me when I'm not working, because it's just, I know the mic's going to pick it up. The fireworks always annoy me. Especially if you have to go out when they're at their height. The constant bangs and explosions all around you. It's not a good time. But anyway, getting back to the question of the day. Sorry for the diversion. It's just, I don't even know if the mic picked that up, but it was a loud boom in the distance there. Yes, I think cars should probably have ashtrays. Whether optional or not, I think it should definitely be something people have. People smoke. I personally have no interest in it, but people smoke. I think they'll always smoke one way or another. It's entirely possible people will eventually move on to vaping, and you won't really need ashtrays, but it should maybe be an option for them as needed, yeah? Why don't you let me know what your thoughts are in a comment below? And if it wasn't going to be an ashtray, what would it be? What would you replace it with if you could? Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.